Hi, I'm Gaby, and I first try to tell you a bit. Yep, I've done everything in a very proper way, as you can see. I'd just like to take you on a short tour about on a tour to internal comms and change. We've heard a lot about change this morning already. And in the afternoon as well. But first of all, I'd like to tell you why I'm here. Yeah. Oops, that was the wrong one. Okay. A little bit about MontuaPartner Communications, which is an agency that concentrates totally on internal comms. And we are in the market already since 2004. And all my colleagues and I, we all used to work in internal communications in smaller or bigger companies over the years. Means we've got a bunch of different experiences fighting with execs and C-levels and the misunderstandings that might be created in communications anyway. And a bit about me, I'm a trained journalist, have been working abroad for quite a while in a bunch of different countries, and I tried to introduce some people to the South African way of a handshake, created some irritations, to be honest. And as you can see, I don't hide that I'm a Netflix addict. I love series. It's just such a shame. Okay, I hope you can live with that. And I love my little dog, which I should have brought with me, to be honest, just for you to have some entertainment. My colleagues, which are over there, my little supporting team, yeah, the claqueurs. They just said he should be here. His name is Schmidt, and he would just have walked around and tried to find some sweets to pick up. Okay, let's talk about some basics. You all know that we, as internal communicators, try to somehow keep under control a whole bunch of different tools. It starts from intranets and employee magazines and ends up with normal team meetings, with fairs for internal fairs for colleagues to show them what other departments are doing and stuff like that. And then a new player arrived, which is roughly about, I think it's 4 or 5 years ago, when I just talked to Frank earlier, when Frank popped up the first time in Goethe Allee in Hamburg and showed us AO, which is now Staffbase, and presented his ideas. And honestly, have we been waiting for it as internal communicators? No. You know what this means? It means change to me. Another tool I have to learn to use. Another tool I have to talk to clients about what they could do with it or not. No, I haven't been waiting for it. But point is, when I first spoke to Frank those days, which was even earlier, I remember a meeting we had in Hamburg in St. Georg, having some coffee and talking about the idea, having a mobile channel to reach colleagues which are on the road or work in logistics or work in department stores. We don't reach them normally. We were not able to. We could give them the employee magazine, and during their off time they could read it, because they can't read it during their working hours, of course not. Yeah, HR will be in front of it, as well as all the C-levels you've got. Of course it would be good to reach them. And that brings me to the point, do we need them? Yes, we do. We do need them very, very often. And all the cases you can imagine why we need them, you will see in my back. It's for all of those who are not PC workers, who are not hiding behind their PCs the whole day, trying to manage the load of emails they're receiving, and all the spam they're receiving too. Just imagine coming back, you all know that situation, after a holiday of 14 days, and open your mailbox, and you know what I'm talking about. You just flooded. And this illness of CC mails, Jesus Christ, really drives me nuts sometimes. So why do we need apps? We need them for certain target groups. We need them sometimes for campaigning, for change. When it comes to the point that we've got special issues which we want to share with our colleagues, we need them. And it's such a much easier approach to use an app because we're so used to it. Is there anybody else here who doesn't use any app on his smartphone? Is anybody there who hasn't got a smartphone? Okay, you all got. Fine. And you all got apps on it, right? Who does use these health apps? Only a few ones. You're a bit shy when it comes to sharing your data, right? I understand. I'm very shy too, to be honest. Okay, but when it comes to communication with employees and leaving a little bit, sharing with them and leaving a little bit to them to share what they experience, what they want to know, what they need, apps could be the perfect way. But it needs to fit in. It needs to fit into my internal communication strategy. It needs also to fit in to the strategy of my company, to the ethics of my company. When I heard about the steel company earlier, I just thought, okay, if I'm standing in front of one of these huge heat ovens, an app won't help right standing there. It won't help. But just imagine you're standing at, let's put it, VW or one of these normal factories where you are in the production. A lot of things already are sent to tablets. So why don't you use that tablet as well to have your information app on it? So it makes sense to look into the future, and it makes sense to reach those people who normally are hard to reach. Still, it means it needs to fit in, and this is the only really complicated thing I've brought with me. You might later on, as far as I know, you will receive the presentation, dig a little bit deeper into that, because when you introduce a new tool to your colleagues, they will not all of them, let's put it that way, not all of them will be just overexcited about it. You will have a whole bunch of people who will just step back and wait what is going to happen. Yeah? And to reach them, the new tool needs to fit in, and it best of all would be if you just take one tool out to put a new tool in. Don't just load more and more tools to your colleagues. It's driving all of us nuts. Me, myself as well. So we had a policy with one of our clients, I'm looking at one of the colleagues from there, that one really needs to check if another channel could be closed. Yeah? It's not about having more and more tools, it's about having the right information for the person you try to reach. And that means also that you look at the company as such and its strategy. You look what culture is in your company. How are the people there? Sometimes you've got companies where everybody is in a startup mood, even if they're already 2,000 people. But you've got also companies or administrations, NGOs, where it is totally different. The setup is totally different. The people are totally different. So the expectations play a huge role, and the target groups play a huge role when it comes to designing the strategy of internal communications and designing the flow of information and tools. And they should really work nicely together. Stop building up little zoos where you've got just Slack for messaging and Staffbase for information and Jive for collaboration and others for thousands of other things, because you also need, sometimes you need a tool to receive, to do marketing, for instance, to send out mailings and stuff like that. You've got thousands of tools. Of course not. You've got 15 different tools, and for each one of them, you've got a known platform when it comes to the worst case scenario, and that won't help. So if you add a new tool, just make sure that you know what it is good for and for whom it might work and who needs it. That's I think it's so basic. I would think it's idiotic to say that, but I've too often experienced that the last question that was put on the table was, what is it good for? It should make sense. And I'd like to look for a second at how do we perceive information? How do we perceive information in a business context? Not as the sender, being IC, but as the one who's smashed with all these information. So the point for me is that we always have to keep in mind that the content needs to be relevant to those who shall use it. And that we need to create relevance via finding out who are our target groups. We need to create awareness. We need also to create some kind of understanding. And this is something you can't only do by sending something once. We all need to hear, read, or see something at least 5 times. You know, in newspapers, pretty often in former times, there was as you've read 3 issues ago, something like that. Was in a whole bunch of articles, was something like that. Or when you watch TV, they referred to a magazine that was on TV 3 weeks ago, because it's the same content, the same content, the same content. And after you've got the same content 5 times, seen it 5 times, this sinks in, not before. So sending something once is just throwing it out of the window. Nobody keeps that in mind. You already heard a whole bunch about the success factors of introducing an app to your colleagues. I think I'd like to stress the first one, which is you need active C-levels. You need these role models. I'm not sure if you need to take pictures. You might get it anyway. What I already said is having a clear picture of what is it good for and whom you are going to reach with this tool. Your colleagues from telecoms, I was quite impressed because you really did it very well when it came to the point knowing whom to reach, knowing about their needs, because otherwise you won't have any relevance. It's not about information as such, it is about receiving information I need in my work context. And this is not mainly about fun. It could be fun if we design it in a nice way. But it's not about fun, it's about work. We need to do our work as fast as possible, as easy as possible. We're still all in a working context. We don't go to work to have fun only. We want to have some fun, of course. But we go there to earn our money and to be productive. And by being productive and being part of a whole team, we have fun. We have fun with our colleagues because we could share. We could share experiences, we could share know-how. It makes a lot of sense to have fun at work, but it's a different kind of fun than hanging around in the evening and having some drinks. And that is what I liked about your triangle, huh? Because it fits directly the needs of your colleagues. They could interact on a very short, in a very short and direct way, could solve problems faster than with any other channel. And the design of the app is right away exactly for your needs. And this is something, before you introduce an app, you really think about who needs it and for what. And I had this nice one. And if shit hits the fan, you know that situation. You sometimes, even in business context, don't imagine that. You need to have a little crisis plan, yeah, when it comes to discussions which are not appropriate. So you need to have a strategy, a small strategy. Don't produce huge papers, yeah? But you need to have a strategy to take care of if somebody starts harassing another person or a conversation just runs out of control. You need to have a little plan at least then. But what we all need to be aware of, for us and for our colleagues, introducing an app is a change process. We seem to ignore that. We just throw the app out because we think we like the idea. We are early adopters. Come on, yeah. We are not the normal colleague. We are not the ones out there, and just trying to fulfill the wishes of a bunch of different people, just trying to get us there or there or there. We are different. And this shows a little bit how different we are. We are people with different histories. In international companies, we're people with different history and experiences, with different cultures. And whenever you look at something new and you fall in love with a new tool, which I easily do, I have to admit, the point is, I'm not like others because I see it from my perspective and from my experience. And so does everybody else. Just imagine. All of you here, 150, roughly 150 people, okay, maybe 120, you all have different experiences. Even if you come from the same town, even from the same neighborhood, you've got different experiences, you've got different histories. And that's, with these different experiences, that's how you see things, how you look at things, how you feel about things. So you might even live in the same household, and it might be your brother or your sister, and you both react very differently at the same situation. Just keep that in mind when it comes to introducing a new channel, if it is an app or if it is a collaboration platform or if we're talking about having a digital workplace, okay? And just to show you what you're facing, you've got roughly 4 different groups when it comes to change. You've got those ones who comment everything you do openly, and they are supportive ones, and there are opponents which don't really openly comment. And you've got a whole bunch of skeptics hanging around there. They're just waiting for the wave to go through without moving too much, okay? That's the biggest part of our colleagues. The skeptics are roughly about 60 to 70% of the colleagues we're dealing with. And the opponents are the ones you hear. Pretty often middle management. Very loud, very clear. Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah, this is the ones that try to fight you. Just ignore them, please. Okay? They're not that important. They just love to be in front, and they love to make their point. Ignore them. But all the others, especially the skeptics, are the ones you could nicely, easily, not easily, but nicely try to pull them to your side. But they need something from us. They need to know why. It's very important when we look at people in business contexts and companies to see that they need to know the reason why. Why something happens, why we do change things, why do we have a new process, why do we have a new tool, why shall I change myself, why shall I say bye-bye to all my beloved ways and processes. I'm so familiar with them. It's cozy. I don't want to say goodbye to them. You know, outside there it's icy and cold, and sometimes even raining, as we saw. To look at the why, the what, and the how is so important, because this transfers the context, and it takes me as a whole person into account. This picks me up, because then I understand. If I know where to go, and somebody tells me why I should go there, and he's got good reasons, then I'll go. Otherwise, oh, come on, I won't. I don't like that idea. Just leave me in my little cozy corner with my ficus beniamini. Bit dusty, that chap, but, you know. So you might have seen this funny curve in the back there. What you encounter if you don't just tell the context. The first thing you have in a reaction is shock. Why should I change all that process? I won't do that. It scares me. So there's shock. Then there comes rejection and obstruction. These are the middle management chaps who try to get their arms in front and silently getting their teams to not play with you. So you're sitting in your nice little sandbox all alone, yeah, with your nice little tool. Point is that with communications, we've got ways to slide through those phases and to accompany our colleagues on this way, because we know about that. The only thing we need to do is being aware of it. So this is the very hectic thing. You shall read it later. I don't want to bore you with that. But you've got 2 different curves, the one that goes up and the one that goes down. This is with and without communication measures. If you introduce something new, if it is a process or an app or a new intranet, or you do a relaunch on an intranet and try to shift groups from one point to the other, change different navigation points, you heard something. For sure you have had something like that in your company already. Get your colleagues early involved. Get stakeholders in. Yeah? Ask them what they really need. Check how they use what they've got. Maybe there are 3 tools they don't use at all. Little dead bodies hanging around in your IC toolbox, stinking. Keep that in mind. Make it easy. Make it easy to swallow and ask them what they need. Ask your colleagues. Talk to them. When it comes to an app, talk to the target groups. Ask them what they really need and what they want to use it for. And give it a pilot phase. Let them try out. And that is when I come to that point, when clients come to us, what are they really asking for? So what do they think? What do they need an app for? The funniest ones are those ones who say, the company on the other side of town has already got an information app that's so sexy. I'd like to have one too. Okay, the Me Too's won't help there. Huh? They're not asking, and I think it's about the last 3-4 years, the first ones who adopted it came with something like that. They just wanted to have an app, without asking if they need it, without asking what they need it for. It makes a lot of sense first to ask what do I need the new tool for. You won't buy a hammer if you don't need one. Huh? But most of them just have a very clear idea what they want. So what they want first is reach all employees. And the more diverse our companies are, the more important it is to find out how many different target groups you've got there. Another point is building a closer relationship, especially with younger colleagues who come from the so-called digital natives, millennials, we heard about them already, who are so used to do everything via their smartphone and via apps to reach them. And it's also, when it comes to campaigning, apps make a lot of sense. And the clients we're seeing mostly come from, we want to reach everybody, and we want to have an open channel where they could interact, having short, easy ways of communicating. As you've heard so many best practices already, I'm not digging deeper into that, okay? Because those ones you've heard display more or less exactly the same we do with our clients, or we had with our clients over the last 3 years. I think which is something that is very, very important and should just be on the top mark of your list is have your C-levels as active role models and pushers. If you have them, all the other managers from middle level and all the other employees feel free to use the new tool. This is so important. If you don't have that, you've got a whole bunch of different fights on different levels. And get HR on your side. Because HR has got lots of very interesting stuff to talk about in an app and to inform about in an app. And I also brought with me a very, very tiny, very rough roadmap. The roadmap just starts with, okay, I want to have one, okay, I'll need to find out whom it is for, who could use it. I need to find out which kind of content and which kind of action or interaction we're going to do with it. We're doing a workshop, finding this out. Then in the next step, we're hopefully not falling. We do a kickoff with the core team. The core team should be at least internal communications, and should be the provider of the new tool, and should be IT. And sometimes it makes sense to have somebody who translates a little bit language-wise between IT and other people. I experienced that in 2 big intranet projects. We had so many misunderstandings that we needed daily stand-ups to familiarize with our different interpretations of wordings. And from that point on, you do workshops with users. Find out what they need. Do interviews with users, with normal users. And don't only go for those ones who are ecstatic about the new tool. Also talk to those ones who stand there and just say this. You know that? Okay, they just don't want to use it. Because we need them too. If we want to reach everybody, then we need them too. And from that point, you do a pilot phase. Get into testing, finding out where the hiccups in the system might be. It should integrate nicely into your daily workflow, but it should not cannibalize your other media. So check out, what about your different media? What kind of roles do your different channels have? Does everybody else outside of your team know? If not, think about it. Because if you've got a new channel, it's a good moment, a good situation to look at what kind of role do your different channels have. And this is, in a nutshell, the most important factors you need to look at. More or less what we all said today already. I think I can't stress it enough, is be sensitive about your customers, okay? Their needs. Define what we need to organize for them. And I think it makes a lot of sense to have some kind of zero measurement before you start, where do we stand today? And to do this over and over again, so have an evaluation process of your success. So that also means you have to have some kind of KPIs. Does not sound too familiar to us communicators, but it makes sense. Yeah? So what do we want to achieve with this new tool, but with our communication as such? Then you just naturally get to the point that each channel needs an own role. Each channel has got its own character. It's a difference if you have a town hall with, may it be the sea levels or a fishbowl discussion around a very dramatic topic in your company, because you've got a huge change process where 300 people or 500 might be fired, okay? Always keep in mind that you have different channels, and these channels have different roles and have different target groups. That makes a lot of sense when you look at that as a whole picture, and that is what we mostly do when we start working with one client. The first thing we do is we look at the landscape. What kind of channels do they have? And what kind of people, what kind of culture do they have? Are they easy when it comes to mistake, or are they open, are they transparent, or aren't they? Are they just the opposite? Are they traditional? Is it more a female organization or more a male organization? You better think about what the difference is, you will find out. So this is, I think, in a nutshell, this is all, and I'd like to thank you for being so nice and listening to me for roughly 45 minutes at such a late time on the day. If you have any questions, or if you like to know a little bit more about what we do, where we come from, and why we do think that we really are good companions when it comes to introducing or transforming your internal communications. Just talk to us. Me and my colleagues are over there, and we'll stay here for another day. And yeah, I saw just those ones who like to read German. We've got a few little magazines with us on the challenges of digital internal communications.